Hello, everyone. I'll be reading the introduction for L. Lamar Wilson. L. Lamar Wilson is the author of Sacrilegion, the 2012 selection for the Carolina Press Poetry Series, a 2013 Independent Publishers Group Bronze Medalist, and a 2013 Thom Gunn Award for Gay Poetry Finalist, and co-author of Prime Poetry and Conversation with the Fantastic Five. Individual poems and scholarly personal essays have appeared in African American Review, Black Gay Genius 2014, Callaloo, Crab Orchid Review, Jubilat, Muzzle, Prairie Schooner, Rattle, the 100 Best African American Poems 2010, Please Excuse This Poem, 100 Poets for the Next Generation 2015, Vinyl, The Washington Post, The Root, and Elsewhere. Wilson, a Cave Canem and Callaloo Graduate Fellow in Florida A&M University alumnus, holds an MFA from Virginia Tech and is completing a doctorate in African American and multi-ethnic American poetics at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He teaches creative writing and African American literature at the University of Alabama.
Coming home to your shelter, coming home where I stay. I go down in your water and I won't turn away. Coming back to your calling, I can hear your voice say, I'm coming home to your orchard. I'm coming home to where I'm from. I sing that song because the woman who sings it is from Hahira, Georgia. Her name is Liz Wright. And when I enter this space, I think of her because I think of a place that I'm from that's not far from here. So thanks first to Drs. Mack and Hankerson for the welcome and the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to start with poems from a newer manuscript that I think I'm writing in the ghost of Phyllis Wheatley. And so I'm going to read you something from an introduction that kind of haunts me about her. By 1778, nearly half of the dignitaries who had signed the attestation for Phyllis Wheatley's poems on various subjects, religious and moral, were dead. In March 1778, John Wheatley died, leaving Phyllis nothing in his estate. Mary Wheatley Lathrop died in September 1778. Each week after October 30th and December 18th, 1779, she published proposals for a second volume of poems with letters in the Boston Evening Post and General Advertiser without success. John and Phyllis Wheatley had three children, all of whom died very early, the last dying with Phyllis on Sunday, December 5th, 1784. On December 8th, mother and daughter were buried together in an unmarked grave. John sold his late wife's manuscripts and books to cover his debts, and the first American edition of her poems was not published until 1786 in Philadelphia. I said that to say that as I work through this manuscript, I'm thinking about the violences of the things that we're dealing with day to day. And I guess in my own protest, I'm trying to write poems celebrating the everyday things that I have learned to do to mark my life from the people who are no longer with us and with me, that raised me. This is called How to Bake Bread. And I guess I will say it's for my grandmother and the woman I nearly married. Kneading the dough inside, she etched a scroll into the pulp at the center without me, lifted her pink heels just so to watch the meal the day had beaten into bland and panned rise, settle, and quicken from its sarcophagus, then vamp a hiss moan. On the counter, she parted layers she'd smoothed with tips of fingers wet with ginger, slick with salt, then offered a sliver before slipping it into her own mouth. Dumb and numb, I ate the bread she had baked. Without me, she began to feast as if she knew I, man becoming her child with each day, would always need so much, always take what she would give so freely to herself. How does a man born of a woman know so little of how joy tastes? How to pick cotton, which I learned with my father, who told this story. In the dream, I am my father straddling a mule. She queefs in our face. Smells sweet, we sigh. Close to quitting time. Here, colored folk covet the funk of an angry ass more than culottes and thighs slick from rows and rows of pearly white, gleaming like blood-stained sperm, wasted like generations of suns. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and sports are just men's, especially for black men, are just ways for us to touch and love on each other, I think. This is how to play pickup, which I was never good at, because I never wanted it to end, so I'd always, anyway, you'll read. How to play pickup. I've never been keen on clandestines pickups, men hungering for honeyed holes to wring, their bleeding eyes and lips moaning a message made plain by beards who ache to feel ambient heat threading through ingrown hairs, yet no bigger hands, palm-fleshed cheeks in dark gym locker rooms' darkest corners. When I refuse behind the back passes and demand face-to-face, man-to-man D, they cower, tell all their boys I'm not good at keeping secrets, their collective lullaby. Lie, play horse, keep the balls close to the chest. Bedtime stories can be soothing that way. I hear a fifth of gin with some Henny helps too. I don't know. I've never swallowed such heat. I forgot to say that's after Harriet Mullen, who, if you don't know who she is, you should read her. She's kind of amazing. So we've all heard this song by Chris Brown called Cake, right? You know that, cake, 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 and with Rihanna, you know that song? Well, I listened to that song, and I heard the story that he would tell of his childhood, of his losing his virginity at a very young age with an older girl who was in concert with some cousins. And so I wrote this poem. It's called How to Eat Cake for Chris Brown. Rape doesn't happen to men, not even boys, if you know how to spin your tail and feather it up. You're from that special, faraway place. It's different in the country, just couldn't say no to it. Kind of like hot to trot, like you're always on top of monstrous mounds of flesh, eating away at the insides of the pinkest part of you turned red, rubbed long enough so that then, and only then, you can be a beast at it. You can be the best at it. You cannot tell a soul, must lie still, be quiet, just take it like the man you always wanted inside. You know you cannot live without it. The tale of all that septipygia, stroking your egos. Whose is it now? Who's to blame? This burning, this desire to lie about how the hunger became a mirror you hate. I was thinking about what Brother Kwame Doss said last night about our fathers. And as you'll hear in the poems from Sacrilegion, I think it was my effort at a love letter to my father, but I feel like it failed. So one of the first poems I wrote after completing that book, and it was out in the world, was this one, and it's called The First Shower. Ivory soap lathered, your hand dirt-caked and hay-slick guiding mine, trembling and sodden like that heifer that slid from her mother's center into your arms hours ago. Oh, my sweet daddy, such tenderness without desire I've not known since. This lesson about what makes us different, how to keep it clean, how to hold it like a man. How did you know I'd never know how to wield this gift like a blade? When to hold it close and when to turn it loose. That's the truth, actually. Sacrilegion, as you will hear, also was written. I lived in Atlanta and Milwaukee out of college. As you've heard, I went to Florida A&M University. And when I moved to Milwaukee, at that point I had lost two of my beloved cousins to the AIDS epidemic because of drug addiction. And I was very much afraid of how it might impact my life being someone who loved other men. And so I left Milwaukee, moving to Atlanta in 2004. And between that time and when I left for graduate school in 2008, I think I lost about 7 friends to the AIDS epidemic, all of whom were men who I think didn't know how to live with the stigma that we still carry. So this is how to disclose. In the states you and I live, I am a criminal, and by morgue, cell, or sanitarium, they will put me away. It's always my fault. After, "Good night, John boy," I let myself loose like mice scouring a soiled kitchen floor, blind but hungry beyond the good sense God gave us all to smell a trap. Loose booty, you big dummy, and scuttlebutt to an a darker corridor, where the last piece of Havarti and dill was waiting in the form of a man sculpted like a Magnum chocolate bar I had to bite. Pretty teeth and nappy hair, an accipitral tongue keen to threadbare my anal fossa. I crawled atop his grotty bed, eyes blazing, high on the hype of his profile pic. Let the heat rend his magnum sleeve and sunder. So I grew up in this town called Marianna, Florida, about 2 hours south and I guess that'd be east, west, south and west of here. And yeah, so that's all you really need to know. I can't help it. I talk too much. I cannot tell a liar from a preacher, so I tell you what you want. I am saved and sick of this world, safe in God's arms. God, give me this world in an honest man's arms. An ego is hard to stroke or easy if you know how to quiet it. Let a man feel his burn in your throat. I talk too much. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry enough. I'll dance all over you, oh liar, preacher, daddy, oh your tongue lashing is never hard or fast enough. When you lie still, stroking your chalice, the quiet makes me wretch. I am a lone dandelion in a field waiting, come, blow me to bits. Still, you'll die this way, saved by the lies that burn like the ice water and alcohol mama sits me in to break the fevers our silence has brought, and I'll die thrashing, telling anybody all my secrets. Times like these, and this has an epigraph from Revelation 9:12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. In one field, husks, muscadine vines, and a sugarcane graveyard furrow acres aching for the devil to beat his wife. In another, a skein of maggots and mayflies, musk thick and resolute, jockey for the cow's afterbirth. Down old U.S. road, weevils, weeds, and chafe bales of hay settle for the wind's sneezes. Wait for a sign, the couple says, and set their table with damask, fresh pressed for a feast of sardines and cornbread. Train the child in the way he should babble. From dusk till dusk, they lull the boy with tales of a faraway sea. Buckets of oysters to shuck our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Still no rain. From dusk till dusk, they till dust. Then they reach for the locks of hair and black-eyed peas, stowed away for times like these. If you grew up anywhere in the South, you know that we are, as Stevie Wonder says, very superstitious, right? So I know when you went to school, you got your black-eyed peas in your book bag, I hope. I hope your mom did that for you. Mine did. It's too bad if she didn't. You should put some in there. It helps, allegedly. Yeah, there are a lot of poems about my dad, so here we go. Woe unto you, sons. You can't cry blood, Daddy says, on the ride home from school. You sulk, face in hand, recall the locker room circle. Yes, I love hopscotch. No, I don't want to, you know her. His laughter slaps your cheek like an open hand as he pats your shoulder. Learn to lie, son. Lick the salty stream as it drips from nose to philtrum to lip. What of a body that cannot lie? Of sinews that do not obey when commanded to cease their quaking? What of a body that scoffs at holy water's conditions? Of pores that hunger for a tongue's fetter? Of nerves deaf to homilies of sweet by and boiti boy boom boy bye? Who can hold this body in his hands, silence its tender, muted moan beneath scars that will not heal? So I live with this condition called Erb's palsy. I was a breeched baby, and back in the day, before cesarean sections became sort of the norm, they would use forceps. And out of a condition of the times, and also of my own willful resistance, I'm certain, because I'm very, 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 very my own self. So I just know that I didn't want the doctor's help, and the combination of the two probably led to this. But always, when people see me in the grocery store, or I'm struggling with some bags or something, as I often am, I invariably get some version of this question. And I never know the answer to give because it's a long answer like the one I've just given you. And I never know how to do it succinctly, but poetry kind of allows you to have fun. And so this is probably the funniest thing I can write. My poems are not funny, as you can tell. And so this is my effort at humor. since my life is full of its own contradictions and blessed accidents. What did you do to yourself? I'm often asked when people see. What did you do to yourself? So this is my answer. I was born and lived to darn myself a cocoon. I don't feel a thing in my left hand in here, but I used to feel everything everywhere else more than most. God said, let there be irony, and there was I, fighting the doctor's forceps on my coming out day. The preacher says, in all things give thanks, and I do. Thank you, God, for this holy bum hand. It's nice to be able to hurt myself and not have to take the blame. Yesterday, I burned my ring finger into a bloody mess. It's been burning for a studied companion for years, or at least I think it has. I can't be sure, but where I'm from, I couldn't marry who I want anyway. The preacher says this desire is unnatural. God don't make no mistakes, and God don't like ugly. Thank you, God, I am an unnatural beauty. I've felt this desire as long as I've not felt my pinky, long before I broke it doing exercises the good doctor told me would help me feel again. The one that's still broken because no one noticed, and I've learned it's easier to let you forget to sing. I wish some pervert had touched me when I was 6 or 17. Then I'd have someone to share this blame. Every Sunday we sing, yes, Jesus loves me, to the children, and I cry. I stopped asking the preacher if his God loves me and my hand years ago. I intuited early I couldn't trust his truths. Little Jay's eyes light up every time I walk into the sanctuary. Thank you, God. I am not a pervert. So when I was at Florida A&M University, I went to school for journalism and worked for many years, as you heard in the bio, and a lot of newspapers. But my very first story was about a man from my hometown who was dying with AIDS, Mr. Robert. And this is about that. It could happen to anyone, a letter to the boy. The man in the shack on the corner wants to kiss you. He remembers when you jump roped better than most of the girls and prayed without manly pretense, remembers how you mimicked the church mothers, knees and body bowed large, your genuine contrition for being broken and breakable still. You always was too pretty to be a boy. Come give me some sugar, he says, and reaches out to kiss you on your cheek, but his lips are thistles, his face a cavern of bones. It's World AIDS Day, and you are here to report his free fall from engineer to blind man leading the myope to fevers that flash on and off like a switch, spooked by the God he still calls great and merciful with a smile. Your mother says his songs tore up church services all over town like hurricanes had done old U.S. Road, limbs splayed, spirit stripped bare, convulsing like saints slain by spirits he conjured. You don't remember. So busy kneeling at the altar of this you, the mothers and sanctified brothers could praise, who loved shirts against skins more than Bible study. Loved tackling the most buff skin on the field, who always held you on top of him long enough for you to feel him hardening against you hardening. Give me some skin, he'd say and grin, as you pulled away, then reached to pull him to his feet. This man doesn't know the you who dreamed of kissing the lead tuba player but was too much of a punk or a saint or both to follow his leer from dais to bathroom stall. It could happen to anyone, he says, especially when you love somebody. Make sure you write that down. You don't. Too sentimental, you think, for a hard news story. So you dig for the grit, for the who branded him untouchable. He smiles, places one hand on his chest, gropes the table for yours. You using protection with these boys? His scaly palm grazes your keloid knuckles. I haven't, you know, yet, you mumble. Happy for once to be numb. Glad you can't feel the heat. So last year, March 7th, 2015, Isola Ware Curry, who everybody assumed was dead, died. She was 98 years old. And in 1958, she walked into Bloomstein's department store where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was signing his book, Stride Toward Freedom, having just successfully led the March on Washington. Led the bus boycott in Montgomery. And very angrily, she took a letter opener and stabbed him in the chest. If he had sneezed, doctors say, it would have punctured his aorta, most assuredly killing him, and the March on Washington may not have ever happened, which it had been organized years before with Asa Philip Randolph and not happened. And so I wrote this poem because I'm always interested in what leads people to do the things that we think are unthinkable. Because who would want to kill Dr. King? She was diagnosed schizophrenic, but this is me trying to embody, for better or worse, because I have a weird relationship to persona now, but at the time I really wanted to honor Isola Ware Curry, who I'm still working on a book of nonfiction about. I'm doing some research about her in Albany in about a month, but this is Picky, Isola Ware Curry. In the end, Tarzan always get hold of Jane, and what I'm trying to figure is how he swing on them vines and know which one of them gals can hold him fast and not take him out on the wrong limb. How he lands so soft-like, not a speck of sweat on his flesh, like them peaches where I come from. You got to be careful which one you bite into, even if it looked like as sweet as can. Could be a worm or worse inside, grinning at you like you the unexpected guest. So when I went to the picture show to get out the house and stop by the store to hunt for some work or a smile or two, and I saw this boy and his mob calling him a king. Arthur Lucer, I think, which sound like Lucifer to me. So when I got up close enough to look him in his eyes, he looked at me like I was common, as all the rest he got hold of. Like he sure seemed to know too much about where I've been and talk about a freedom he knew I ain't never gonna see. So right then, I knew it was him or me gonna take a stab at living another day. And just this one time, I chose me. What I do know is that she was very keen about pretending not to know Dr. King. And a lot of the lines in the poem are from an interview that she gave right after she stabbed him. She confessed. She was pretty bold about it and said that, the NAACP was after her. And she survived several hospitals for the criminally insane, was released on her own recognizance around 1978 to a home for the elderly in Queens where she died. So this is a poem for my relationship to the King James Version of the Christian Bible. It's called I Am Comely. I am black and comely. I am black and comely, Solomon said, except in King James's version. There a but abuts comely, making black less so. Palatable. That bute's mind lured more women into his court than I suspect that fair Rick James ever cared to see. Expecting a real mama, whore or not, would feel the cut of the sword long before its blade was sought. Solomon saw division a perfect divining rod, yet his progeny, with as much sense as he, and so much of it opaque in our holiest of holy scripts, dare not question the sleight of James's God's scribes' pens, the buts blighting our wizened faces, making half-truths seem far more palatable. Oh, will we ever know how beautiful we are? So here's some poems from my grandmother and my mom, since I adore them and I miss my grandmother every day. If you have yours with you, call her today and tell her you love her. This is called Touch, a letter to the mother. I've driven 654 miles without sleep to make you better, but when I ask how you feel, and you thrust your breast within my grasp and say, see, it's fine, I see it's not. Cool, I lie, then recoil, but you never have. Not when I came to you instead of daddy to show hair down there. Not when I followed you finally bra-free to the bathroom during commercial breaks to debate whodunit on The Young and the Restless, or to ask which jeans best showcased my assets. Not when I danced around the house naked as a jaybird, you'd say, never laughing at my funny girl monologues. You didn't turn me away when I said, his name is Johnny and I love him, and you never said, brown boys can't be sissies, baby, though I wish you had. Since now a lump the size of the head of a tack may take away the only one who hasn't recoiled at what comes naturally to me. Your eyes mirror mine at the sight of what something so small can do, like a lump, like a lie. You're okay, it's okay, slips from my lips, and I reach out and touch your scar to assure us the enemy lurking will not bring shame where shame has no home. I fell in love with a man named Johnny, and here are some poems. He is now in Germany. He's a military man. And as you heard in the other poem, what I love about time is that it's a lie. I can't get married to whom I want now. Although if I go home, I couldn't get married in my hometown because they closed, they decided once gay marriage was legalized, they decided they weren't going to marry anyone. So that's happening all over the South, I'm learning. But yeah, it's legal now. But at this time, it was not, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still in place. So, dear Uncle Sam, he's not your type. He kisses men with eyes open, talks with them shaded or averted to acquiescent asses. When cordon in question, he laughs. Beware, his laughter beguiles. Beware, he never shoots straight, always curls fetal in the arms of anyone who can steal him, never sleeps alone. Give him a gun, and he may turn it into a prop for a plie. Give him a gun, and he may turn it on himself and every fool who believes you. He's claimed bodies in every major city east of Chicago, saw mine heaving among strobe-lit throng, and marked me. His sweat clinging to my nape, our silhouettes on bedroom walls, now a mirage blurred by desert dunes, now only the crests of lines hardened hands scrawled. I'll be home next month. I'll be home next year. I'll be out. One more poem from Sacrilegion, and then a very, very new, longish poem in the last one for Phillis Wheatley. And then hopefully you'll understand why I read what I read of her at the beginning. This is called Oblation, and thank you for your time. Nights like this, I miss the control over a man's next thought, the surrender of breath, his will winds, last word breaks in my throat, every sinew kissed, bruised, please don't stop, go, just tell me anywhere, leave, we are climbing, every round goes anywhere, just breathe higher, can these bones live anywhere, curl inside, here, I won't let you go, please go, don't, I do love you so, please, you so loved, won't let you, do you, go, let me, I won't let you go until you bless me, I won't let you go until you curse me. This long poem is called Missionary, and I've spent the last 6-7 years almost trying to finish this doctorate and read a lot of African American poetry and fallen in love with us and how we survive and continue to innovate. And just when they think they figured us out, we change the game. And so I imagine in this poem, what it was like for Phillis Wheatley to unlearn Wolof and Twi and some other languages. And so there may be words that you don't necessarily understand, but I hope you can get the feeling of them. And honestly, I've never read this publicly, so I hope I do her justice, because she was remarkable. Like Langston Hughes, she was 17 years old writing these poems and having survived a horrific transition and lost all her family. Missionary. Me pawo kwe sula nehi de not. No! La nehi. Shh! Yay! Woyi. De guma. De gaswal. Il ne fait masmi. It won't hurt. Yay! So they na. Sula nehi. Unless you open your, ow! Maye jam ya. Open your legs, make me know, wah! Mouth, ow! Sir Natoba. Read. Mer Tukwan. Say, me a minstrel E-I-O. Sometimes give me lines. No. Deme, Guma, Papa, Balma. Why come, Lordy? Oh, Lordy. Miwo, Akonotumio. I am a ship. I am a color. Ma nigotad. Oh, ship. FEMA. Phyllis, coming. Awatimo, for to carry you. Akia, home. Hebre, Masinas. Terence, Aurora, Homo sum humani nil ami. Alienat Pluto, 'twas mercy. Woho Tessin brought me from Savior to Sable, my pagan land. There's a God. Mama, remember, shh, Christians, Negroes, black as Cain. It was good ship, mercy, Esperanza, Jesus, Sable, race, mercy, 'twas mercy. Remember, Phyllis. Thank you. Yes, questions. I'm actually not as scary as I might have sounded a moment ago. Yes.
The last poem that you read, what were some of the words?
Don't touch me. Stop. It hurts. Mama. Aki is home. A lot of different ways of saying, please stop. Don't touch me. That hurts. Where's my brother? Where's sister? And then I'm not good at. You're going to see a master of performance tonight in these two masters of performance. There's a lot of, in the way that I envision it, there would be a lot of ambient noise and clapping, and this is a very performative piece. I don't know what's going to happen to it beyond the 15 or so pages it is. And it's not just her journey. I think about Lucy Terry, and I choose poems that are their famous ones. And Lucy Terry, of course, and we only have one of hers. There's an obituary that we think she might have written for herself, who's the first poet we have. canon. But yeah, it's just poems. It's very simple phrases, like, please don't touch me, please stop. And I'm also trying to bring in the voices of the enslavers, like who would have called her bitch, or who would have possibly, tried to make her, I'm also thinking about, we are all living in a post-traumatic slave syndrome in America. And I think she, being someone who knew it more intimately than we do, would have been inside of herself working through all of this kind of language to learn how to say "'twas mercy." I think that poem is so woefully misread. And also, you do understand that the horrific craziness that is chattel slavery is that they named the ships Mercy, Esperanza, which means hope, the good ship Jesus, which was the first slave ship. And she was named after the ship that she was on, which is Phillis. She was on a ship called Phillis, and that's why John Wheatley, who purchased her, and said that she looked so pitiful and she was missing her front teeth. That's why they think she was about 7 or 8. There was something about her eyes that called him, or something like that, he says in his opening letter. So yeah, it's just very simple words that are like, please don't touch me and stop. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, 2 questions. One, has any of the other work been found?
It has not, and that's something that I think that second book must have been like the blackest book ever. Like, I think that she must have said, imagine you marry this man who is so misunderstood. There's an essay that Honoré Fanon Jeffers has published in a new collection called The Fire This Time, where she tries to write about John Wheatley as this innovative businessman. Like, he kept trying to start a new business. He was trying to be a grocer. He was trying to be a mason. He was trying to do a lot of different things and kept failing. And I imagine this woman who had basically written a book that allowed her to have her freedom, and then to go from being the most respected and beloved woman in Europe and, in her time, the part of Boston that she was from, very heralded, had written letters to George Washington when he was still General Washington, having published poems basically saying, America, you have an opportunity to create something new here. You should listen to me, and having George Washington write her back, or saying to the young men at Harvard, hey, while you're thinking about this wonderful opportunity you have, you might think about fighting for my freedom, because you're kind of living a lie if you believe in your democracy and I'm still a slave. You took me from my mother, you took me from my father. She says it in very subtle ways. But I don't think we have that book. I think somebody does and doesn't want it to be published. And the speeches of Lucy Terry, where she allegedly, storedly spoke on the Supreme Court on her son's behalf to get into what is now, maybe it's not Brown, one of the other schools in New England. Lucy Terry allegedly gave this long speech that somehow isn't documented anywhere. That was so profound that it was before the Supreme Court of the state. And so there are these documents that, just this year they found a poem of George Moses Horton when he was older, last year I should say, a poem of his that basically says, I'm leaving here, I got to get out of this country, he left and went to Philadelphia, and then some people think he, went to Liberia. So I think, that's something that I wish I could say yes to, but from all of my research that I found, nobody knows where it is. Second question.
Yeah, the second question had to do with where did you get the idea, and how did you work through how to write your story in the way that you did, the way that you tell the story?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot. I've been thinking about all the Middle Passage stories that are out there, I love Robert Haynes' Middle Passage. I love, there's so many of these, but all of them are trying to fit into our language that we are given here in the United States. And I am on my own journey of trying to discover all these other diasporic selves. I was telling Brother Kwame this morning that all my life I didn't read the poem in sacrilegion that starts with, what are you? I'm the what are you. And people are always asking me, what are you? Is your mama white, or is your daddy Latino, or what, where are you from? And all my life I've been told, that my grandfather was, Seminole, and I did the ancestry tests, and I'm doing one with the kiddos at Howard, and I found out, like, I have 1% Native American blood and like 75% Nigerian blood or something like this, according to these tests. And I just thought that was the mythologies that we live within this country about where we're from, about who can claim us. I'm just on this journey of trying to think through different ways of telling a story, I think, and I'm trying to move beyond what I feel now is maybe a very, very sad space that I was in, where I lost, within a matter of 6 years, the 2 women who were my family's matriarch. I couldn't read. I started to read the poems about my grandmother, but I just knew I would break down, and I didn't want to do that in front of you all. It's really hard for me to read those poems in public. She was my best friend. She lived to be 106 years old. It is crazy that I grieve for her so. I grieve for her so that on her 110th birthday last year, I cut off 15 years of locks and I'm starting a new journey. And so I left them with her, a space that's for her in my home, in the home that I was raised in, that she died in. And I just wanted to do something different with language. I am inspired by what is happening in African American poetics to resist during this time of pervasive imagery and narratives of Black death, to resist this sort of kind of maudlin performance of sadness. And I'm thinking, my God, we have survived so much. I want to reclaim the language. And it's a much longer piece. I only read the beginning, but it actually, there are other poems that I'm writing in conversation with her where she is more strident, more, I think, subversively sort of critiquing Christianity and critiquing the mendacity that is of the enslavers, and using the same language in her head, but trying to work through this English language. So I think it's actually helping me try to do the same thing, and somehow she's helping me to work through, in the other poems that are surrounding it in the manuscript, my own effort to resist performing a certain kind of woe is me on the page that I feel like the first manuscript did a great deal of.
Is there any documentation of her time in London?
Yes. In my manuscript, yes. Yeah, and I think that's the irony, is that, when she writes Farewell to America, that poem is hilarious, because she's like, y'all are sad, like, I'm happy, and I'm going to London, Susanna, I'm sorry you're crying, I'll be back a little while. But if you think about it, if she had stayed in London, she probably would have published that second book. It was because she came back, and I think, as I imagine it, she had already met John, that she was in love, and that she was coming back to start this family with him, and this was just her journey to buy her freedom, and to get the book published, to stand before this council of men. You all know that she was put on trial, like you and I will be put on trial today for committing a crime, to prove her intelligence. You all have learned that in your AFAM Lit classes, right? Like, let's say you're accused of stealing something. No, she wrote a book, and they couldn't believe a little Black girl could be that smart. So they sat her in front of 12 white men, and they all asked her questions, and they tested her. That's what the attestation that I was talking about. They tested her, and they signed, yes, she actually did write this. We will sign. And it was only published in London, first. And then, of course, it was published in the United States, as I said, later. So, yes, there is a part where she is, like, enjoying being in London and, like, wrestling with coming back and thinking about, a lot of different things. So it's a much longer piece in which I'm trying to go through all those waves of emotions. So.
One final question. When did she die before the research?
I read, I think it was December 5th, 79. We don't, and the thing is, the sad thing is that, as Honoré points out in her essay, all we know of her is from a biography that was written by this woman who says she was the cousin of the former owner, who basically badmouths John Wheatley and says if she had not married that low-down arrogant black man, she would still be alive. You know, if she had stayed with the Wheatleys and not left them, they took care of her. You know, they were good to her. If she had stayed with them, so that we don't know what, you know, this is, I think we have at least, you know, that we have record of the fact that she died in December 7th. And that's why I wanted to talk about that, because 238 years ago this week, she was writing a letter to someone trying to get her book published. 238 years ago this week, she was writing a letter trying to get her book published. And as I work on my second book, I'm constantly thinking about her as someone who I am writing for and writing into, as I write into a deeper part of myself that I'm discovering. So, right. Thank you for that. I can't wait to go and see some of these places. Other questions? I really am a cool person. I won't. Oh, we got to stop? Did I go over? We started a little bit later, so, okay. Sorry, I'll be back there, so you can come ask me if you wanted to talk to me. I'll be around all day, so. And there's something, I think, this afternoon, too, where I'll be talking to students, so you can come back. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, Lamar Wilson will be in the Hip Hop Lounge at 2:30. So if you want to come by just to ask him some questions or to just interact with him, you're welcome to come by to that. Also, we'll be having a workshop. On the program, it says it starts at noon, but actually it's probably going to start a little later, probably around 12:30 or so. It's a spoken word workshop. And then tonight, we actually have two poets who will be performing tonight, doing some readings tonight, and you would want to come out and enjoy that as well. So thanks again for coming, and I look forward to seeing you later on, either this afternoon or tonight.